Hello and welcome to another episode on the Book Talkies show. Today we are joined by Arvind Sriraman to talk about an interesting non-fiction book. But before we get into the details, Arvind, a warm welcome to the show and thank you for making the time.
Thank you, guys. Really nice to be with you here.
Great to have you, Arvind. I would like to start by giving you the floor to give maybe a short introduction about yourself, a little bit about your personal life, a little bit about your professional life, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thanks, Kaustubh and Anirudh, for having me. I have known Kaustubh, I think, since our school days. So it kind of goes back like good 20 years ago or so. So we've been in school for 10 plus years.
Yeah,
And yeah, with the technology, WhatsApp and everything, we have been in touch with our school groups. So that's how we've been at least keeping each other updated on what's happening in our lives and all. And Kaustubh mentioned about this podcast about books that he's really passionate about, and it was very interesting. And although I'm not a huge reader, I said I've read few books, and some of the books I've used in my day-to-day life. And then me and Kaustubh were just exchanging messages, and here we are. Bit about my background. I grew up in Nagpur in India, did my college in IIT Bombay, then came to the US for grad school. Been in Houston, Texas for 10 plus years now. And the book I'm going to be talking about today has kind of had a big impact on how I go about my life. So, for example, I went to school for engineering. I started working in oil and gas and energy industry in Houston because Houston is quote unquote the energy capital of the world. But I really didn't know why or what I was doing. It was more like, when things just happen, you just kind of take it in stride and go with it. But then as I began to think more about what's happening around me or what I really care about and those things, it began to kind of had the realization that energy or working in the oil and gas was not something I really care or I'm too much passionate about. And I literally did a complete switch in my careers during pandemic. Actually, I just jumped into a tech startup world and I joined a completely unknown startup company. That's a quick introduction about myself.
fantastic. But I'm glad to have you on the show, man. It's like it's one of the episodes where you just chit chat with your friend, So I'm glad to have you here, and you've selected a very fascinating book which was published. I think the first edition was published in 2007.
Correct.
And the book's name is Mindset,
That's
written
right.
by a renowned child psychologist, if I can say this, child psychologist, Dr. Carol Dweck. Yeah.
Correct. She's actually a professor at Stanford. So she has
Uh-huh.
used a lot of her research and findings, a lot of experimental research, and based on evidence and data is when she has used that, put it into this book.
Good book to choose. I
I
must
think,
say.
well, Kostav, I think you're two steps ahead of me already. I have no context of this book, so maybe we start with what this book is about, Arvind, if you can shed some light in terms of what this book is, just at a very high level, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, the book, as the title says, mindset, the new psychology of success, and a little bit of background about what I know about the author is. As I said, she's a professor at Stanford, and she does a lot of experimental research, and then she tries to put it into some practical and very actionable things for her readers. And I think she has written more than one book, but this was the book that I've read so far. And what essentially the book comes down to is there are two types of mindsets. You got the fixed mindset and you have got the growth mindset. The realization that the author has had is, as a society, we tend to praise intelligence, genius, quote unquote, God's gifts, genetic lottery, all these kind of things, and attribute that to success of people around us. When in reality, there is no direct correlation that somebody is born with an innate talent. So it's very counterintuitive because it's almost like you have to step out of what we have seen and experienced throughout our lives and then take this fresh perspective that no, it's not like somebody is just born with certain things. Even though we may see evidence of like that, oh yeah, this person is gifted. You might think of Michael Jordan and say, oh yeah, the guy is just so well built and is so skilled. He's going to make all those jump shots. He was bound to win 6, 7 rings. Or you look at in cricket, you look at Sachin Tendulkar or some of the other famous cricketers, and you might think, oh, these guys were just born talented. He was a child prodigy, started playing at 16 or 17 for India and played for so many years and scored 100 centuries across. You know, I think, oh, geez, no way anybody can even get to that. But that just kind of is a narrative or a spin that we as society have chosen to give to it because it fits a very convenient pattern, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
who really wants to know, well, behind all this success there's a lot of hard work, when it's
Yeah.
more easier to say, oh yeah, this guy's genius, let's kind of dig into this quote unquote alien qualities this person has, versus saying no, he's literally like an everyday Joe. He just did so many things well. He was way more disciplined, he or she, and that's how they got to where they are today. But that usually may not catch the eyeballs or create a lot of buzz. So the easier narrative is more like saying they are born with this and this and that, and look at this, they don't put much efforts but they've just got this, right? And then we all are like, ooh, that sounds really impressive. So that's how I have taken the observations in the book. So coming back to the two types of mindset, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. So fixed mindset is something where we perceive it like you're born with intelligence or born with
Mm-hmm.
certain qualities, and actually if you're putting into efforts to do something or you're trying to struggle your way to success, it is a bad sign, because you should not be struggling for things, because things should come naturally to you. So if you are struggling, it's almost like a cue that you should not be doing it because you are probably not meant to do it. Versus the growth mindset, which kind of appreciates the fact that no, we all are learning and evolving. It's not a destination but a journey, and the trajectory of the growth is what matters. So even if you may not know something at the beginning, just keep trying because you find joy in trying and the learnings, and keep doing it again and again with the learnings that you're getting, the feedback loops that automatically get built. And with time, you will begin to see the results. But the point is, you're not doing it for the results, but the reality is you are enjoying the process,
Mm-hmm.
and that leads to the results. Second example, which I really feel also very interesting, is about parenting kids.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I was mentioning to Kaustubh at the beginning of the episode, that when we see kids doing well in school, it's very easy for parents to get hung up on like, oh, this person may be a prodigy, or they're the next Einstein and they are really gifted in math and science or whatever field. And the point is, you start praising the kid because they are scoring quote unquote 95 or 100, or they are getting A's and A pluses, and you begin to kind of belittle them if they get like lesser marks or lesser grade. But what we miss out, and this is something that the book really does a great job of explaining, is as teachers or as parents, if that's the message we are giving to the kid because we feel like they didn't succeed because of a quote unquote grade or a score, what we miss out on the nuance is how does the kid interpret the message. So here's an example. What I mean by that is, let's say Anirudh got 98 as a student in one of his fifth or sixth grade math exam. And let's say, Kaustubh, I'm not, sorry to put you in a spot, but as an example, let's say you got unfortunately 72 in that exam.
Yeah.
So if you see a teacher praising Anirudh that, oh, Anirudh, you are genius, you got 98, congrats. Everybody thinks, oh yeah, Anirudh has done great and people will clap for him. But just kind of put a thought into what the thought might be going into some of the other kids. They actually may take away a message that, oh, if I don't get anywhere close to 98, I will not be considered a genius. In other words, I will be considered a dummy or somebody not smart. So instead of me trying to focus on the learning or enjoying math as a way to understand that why we learn to lead math, I really then shift the entire messaging to a pressure that I need to get 98 or I'm a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
not the fault of the student, because that's what they've been saying, because they saw the praise, not because it was Anirudh. They associated the praise with that student getting 98 and equating that to genius or success.
Mm-hmm.
But the negation of the statement is what the other kids see, meaning that if I don't get 98, I'm a failure. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Not that the parent or the teacher has that intention when they were praising Anirudh, but the fact is that's how the effect is on the other students. And it then creates a negative spiral where you're then trying to go for that high score, and anything you fall short of, it feeds into the negative cycle, meaning like, hey, you know what, I'm not good enough because I still cannot get there. Versus somebody in the book, as it suggests, if you have a growth mindset, the right way or the recommended way that the author says in this way to praise is, of course, you want to praise the good effort and also motivate the kids, but you don't
Yeah.
want to kind of praise them for the outcome, but you should rather praise them for the process. So a better example here could have been Anirudh got 98 and he still deserves the kudos, but look at the shift on the kudos. An example of a growth mindset messaging by the teacher will be, oh Anirudh, I've seen you working pretty hard, I've seen you attending our office hours, or when we have these tutoring sessions, I've seen you come to me and ask me some questions on the problems you were stuck. I've seen you have practiced this at home, I've seen you have solved 20 plus examples before the test. And the fact that you've been putting in the efforts and you've been getting the feedback, no wonder you did so well in the exam. So now the entire narrative is shifted, because now imagine if the teacher gave this feedback in front of the class to the kids, the message becomes, oh, Anirudh is not some exceptional person. He put in the efforts. He literally did so much work behind the scenes, and he iterated and iterated, took the feedback, did his homework, put more efforts, knew where his gaps were, and that manifested in his success on the exam score. So yes, he got 98, but it was not because he just woke up one day saying I'm smart in math. He really put in the efforts, and that efforts is what led to that good score. Another example it talks about in professional environment, like in businesses and teams, what kind of a
Hmm.
team leader you are, what you are praising your quote unquote rock star performer for. If you
Hmm.
just say, oh yeah, if somebody's in sales and say, oh, this guy just keeps crushing it, 1.5 million, that's your 10% or 50% more than your quota. What the other people then feel is, oh, even if I get to 1.2 million and my quota was 1 million, technically I've done really well, but I was not at 1.5, so I'm just not good enough. So it again creates these artificial barriers where we just go too hard on ourselves, and then we may lose motivation, because instead of enjoying the process and the job and the day-to-day grind, we equate everything to like a binary where I need to be at 1.5. If not, I'm just not good enough. So imagine the leader or a manager in that case having a way of praising somebody to appreciate the efforts they put in, and that would be an example of a growth mindset. And that has a bearing on the team, because they will say, well, yeah, this guy, there was nothing unique about this person. He really put in the efforts, the process, and that's where he got the result from, and it's something even I can do.
Man, dude, I don't think our listeners would go back to read the book. They'll just listen to what you said and they would like, wow. I mean, yeah, I got what I wanted, and they'll just use your examples and improve their life. But super, man. I don't think you've read, if you're remembering this much, the book is that much impactful and so quite fascinating.
Just a
Oh.
throwball question from my side, Arvind. So, if you look back at school days, we used to have these, at least in my school, we had an all rounder award. You had academic excellence, and then you had somebody who excelled in sports. So, obviously, all rounders would be people who are good at almost everything, maybe 60, 70% there in terms of all rounded personalities, academic excellence, excelling in their exams, 95, 98 in some subjects, and then sports would be best footballer, best athlete, those sort of awards. Now, what I'm coming to is, for somebody who is getting an all-rounder versus somebody who's getting an academic excellence versus somebody who's getting who is excelling in sports, can these people, and maybe the book already talks about it, can people be both with a growth mindset as well as fixed mindset on different aspects? So somebody who is doing brilliantly in terms of academics but may not be doing good at sports, he has a growth mindset towards, he or she has a growth mindset towards academics but not towards sports, and vice versa. Or And then maybe all rounders are more rounded in that sense. They have the right balance between these two and are able to do everything. How does the book talk about that? Or maybe that's like a curveball question, right?
No, no, no. Actually, it's a great point to bring up, Anirudh, because it kind of goes well, which I was about to get as the next point is that one thing which I want to caution, and with the book does a great job of explaining towards the end is, yeah, you get into the fixed versus growth, but reality, life is never black and white.
Yeah.
And what the book really explains is every person actually has a blend of fixed mindset and growth mindset in different aspects and qualities they are pursuing. So in your example, and that's spot on in the sense that we all have some inhibitions in certain things, and we all have some more free will or like a little bit more cavalier attitude in some other things. So we all carry that qualities of fixed mindset in some places in our life and qualities of growth mindset in places. What the book really tries to explain is just have that awareness so that you know where your boundaries are and where you can improve. Because it's not easy. All these things might sound like, oh yeah, this sounds like, yeah, obvious and all that stuff, right? But the main thing is, at least for me, when I'm reading a book or a framework, is how can we apply in our day-to-day lives, be it in our personal life or in our family life, in our relationship, or in engaging with the society. So the point is just have that awareness that when you are coming in the bucket of fixed mindset and when you are in the bucket of growth mindset. So it's not a black and white that if I am fixed mindset, let's say in playing tennis, I am going to be fixed mindset in everything else in my life. It really comes down to a point that it's almost like and the book says that, sometimes people actually even in the same domain oscillate between fixed mindset and growth mindset, depending on, certain things happening in their other parts of life. So the point is just more about taking a step back and having an awareness. It's almost like, we are not robots, we are humans. So a lot of times we will say and do things which may sound very irrational, but just having that openness and the humility to get feedback, asking your peers or your colleagues or your significant other or even your family that, hey, what did you think of that interaction or what did you observe there? And kind of taking some lessons from there, that might help you put some brakes or friction to say, was I getting into the trap of fixed mindset, or what I need to do to do better, not only for me but also for the people around me. So yes, absolutely. I think we all have shades of both fixed mindset and growth mindset. The book does just a great job of making us aware where we are in what conditions and what we need to do to come out of it, or not even come out of it. I would say it's more like just have the awareness, because a lot of times just having the awareness itself helps you course correct and get on the right track.
It's really hard to believe, Arvind, that you are not very fond of reading or you don't read too much. The passion that you bring towards reading and how you talk about books is really, really fun. And this has been a really interesting conversation, and we have really enjoyed it. I'm sure you have as well. And looking forward to an offline chat about deep work once you finish that.
No, excellent. Thank you again, Kostuber and Anirudh. Yeah, it was my pleasure just sharing some of the things that I observed in the book. Thank you, guys.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.